China's envoy to the talks is saying that the United States should lift all the sanctions that are inconsistent with the 2015 agreement, including those on China. What role do you see China playing in these talks, and how influential are they?
This is a very important point because in some ways the success or failure of part of the U.S.'s strategy towards Iran depends on the success or the failure of the U.S.'s strategy vis-a-vis China. How far willing is it to go against sanctions that punish, for instance, Chinese illicit oil shipments? That's right now an open question, given the lack of enforcement on oil sanctions and given the fact that revenues from China allow Iran to say no or take a harder stance at the nuclear negotiating table. These are all important questions, and questions that, in fact, allow the Chinese, who are a member of the P5+1, to in some ways amplify or function as an extended voice for some of the ultra-hardline Iranian demands, which include what you just said, which is the removal of all Trump-era sanctions, many of which were non-nuclear, and many of which included double designations of entities that were previously subject to nuclear penalties and now subject to terrorism, human rights, or missile penalties.
So while these sanctions have put macroeconomic pressure on Iran, at the end of the day, in terms of what the ultimate goal or the desired goal of those sanctions are, can we safely say that they have not been that effective?
In fact, I would disagree with that, because the main goal is to use macroeconomic pain to get them to the table. So even if there was a term 2 Trump administration, it was always a question of when, not if, the regime would engage. They might be able to hold out longer or shorter in different periods. They may not broaden the scope of the negotiations. But again, the important thing is to look for continuity in the Iranian strategy. And Iran is looking to weaponize much of the leverage it's gained to not necessarily return to the 2015 nuclear deal, but to use the prospect of an expanding program to offer less and, in effect, try to elicit more.